Back outside with your boy Doug B. Fresh. We are in Monroe, Georgia, headed to Fayetteville, Georgia. Caught myself out here not doing anything, but it's just like the phone's ringing and I'm tingling. Hope you guys have a wonderful day today. We got 11:34 and it is actually 84 degrees outside. Drinking my wild cherry Pepsi. I seen one of my fans drinking that too, so it's delicious. So Pepsi did their thing on that. Anyway, we're headed to Fayetteville right quick. Take care of some business. Cabinet me, playing with y'all. Trumpet not playing.
And the governor, the corrupt governor of Minnesota.
Falcons. Life would be so much better if we. As for the late notice, I didn't have time to promote it. I had Robin and I had a commitment the last 2 days. We got it done today. I got done at about 10:15. Was able to jump over here at the studio and turn everything on and get going. So we shall see this. I think it's going to be pretty interesting, especially with everything that's happening in Spain right now. An actual invasion. We're watching a country being invaded. We're watching a country being taken over. We're watching a country being taken over without a single shot being fired. That to me is absolutely amazing. These men all showed up with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Some of them didn't even have the clothes on their backs. They're going to have to be housed. They're going to have to be fed. They're going to have medical attention, everything. They're going to have to be clothed. And where's that money going to be coming from? Who is going to have to take care of that? Well, the Spanish people. Incidentally, because of the laws over there, the fact that they landed on that little part of Spain that's attached to Africa, they are now essentially residents of the European Union. And so this morning, Spain is actually ferrying some of these invaders to the mainland. It's absolutely insane. There was one video I saw, where a woman was smiling and taking videos, and this woman appeared to be white, and she was waving the people into Spain, not realizing what the heck she was doing. Absolute insanity. That these people don't recognize that they are inviting into their country the actual invaders that want to see them go away. Who knows what they'll do to certain women over there? It's insane. This whole red-green alliance thing that we're seeing between the socialists and Islamists and what they plan on doing and how the people are cheering this demise on as if they don't realize what the heck is going to happen, when we're seeing potential victims applauding and inviting these types of people into their country. Especially, you think to yourself, the whole LGBTQ crowd, who, they've had to learn how to fly in some of these countries, yet they cheer them on. Well, anyway, President Trump is about to step off the helicopter here, so I'll let you guys take a look at that without running my mouth any further, and we'll get back to that. I just wanted to let you know it's quiet because I guess they don't have the area mic'd, which might be just as well, so you don't hear a bunch of propellers and things of that nature. But here comes the president as we speak. Let me just make sure. Yeah, I've got the volume all the way up, so there is no microphone there at this point. As President Trump gets off of Marine One and heads into Camp David. Let me go to full screen so you guys can watch this. Susie Wiles, looks like Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, all getting off the back there. Doug Burgum. So I guess the whole cabinet flew over in Marine One with President Trump. And there's his little buggy. That's pretty cool. I bet you it's a bulletproof glass buggy that'll take him over to where the event will be. Well, no, it's not bulletproof. She doesn't have a window. Looks like maybe on his side. Interesting. All right, so we're moments away from President Trump opening up this cabinet meeting, which again, that's what I'm saying is, I think they'll have to talk a lot about Spain. Maybe they won't. I mean, it's just such a in the news topic at this point. You'd think they would. Man, those golf carts can move pretty quick. Man, they got some speed behind those suckers. Pretty crazy. All right, so I'll cut back to that as soon as he comes on. And in the interim, I wanted to show you something that he posted on to True Social. President Trump posted this earlier. John Cornyn never had a problem with the so-called fund, which will not benefit me personally, meaning Trump, but rather the great American patriots who were hunted down like dogs and whose lives were unfairly and illegally destroyed by the crooked Joe Biden administration, until after I decided to endorse and support his Republican primary opponent in Texas, who easily won the nomination for the United States Senate. Perhaps there has never been a group of people treated so badly in our nation's history. They are suffering. He's talking about, real Americans who were targeted by Biden, treated so badly in our nation's history. They are suffering still, many ruined, and I felt they should be given compensation for what has been done to them. I gave up any payments for myself, which would have been substantial.
Cancel.
I can resume the media session for you.
A disgusting display of weaponization against me. Such an event has never happened before and hopefully will never happen again. I will always feel that these victims of government should be paid back for what they were forced to endure. Their lives have been ruined. Millions of people agree with me, as was proven in my landslide presidential win, where this was a major subject of debate, and so did John Cornyn himself, until he lost his election to an opponent that I endorsed. Todd Blanche, a good man, should be immediately approved as U.S. Attorney General. Thank you for your attention to this matter. What he's referring to, if you haven't been up on that news, is John Cornyn and, of course, Tom Tillis are holding up the nomination of Todd Blanche as Attorney General. Cornyn doesn't want to vote for Todd Blanche unless he gets some assurance in writing that they'll never go forward with this, quote, weaponization fund. Has nothing to do with his qualifications as an Attorney General. It's something he specifically, which there are others, he says, don't want to see this thing happen. Funny, he voted for Merrick Garland. No problem there. He voted for Joe Biden's Attorney General, but he won't vote for Todd Blanche. Won't even let the nomination proceed. To it, which one point a couple days ago, President Trump said, well, then fine. I'll just leave him as the acting Attorney General. He's still doing a great job. He's still kicking butt. And then we'll just finish it when you're gone, because you're about to be gone. To it, John Cornyn said, well, there's many others that feel the same way.
Good.
I hate when these people do this stuff. If there are others that feel the same way, if there are other turncoats that don't want these people compensated, why not name the names? Why are there so many snakes in the grass on the Republican side of the aisle? Why are there so many of them in the weeds working against the President of the United States. And I will also say, working against America. None of this makes any sense. I'm tired of talking about it and understanding that we're only beating ourselves. Even after seeing what happened in Spain last night, seeing all these people invade, we still wake up this morning and people are still beating up on Trump. And when I say people, I'm talking about people on the right. They're still beating up on Trump. They're still beating up on MAGA. I can't understand it. There's nothing that makes any sense anymore in regards to how some of these people are acting. I'm just waiting for the moment, which is probably not too far off, where somebody is going to emerge and run as some independent candidate to try further to destroy America. Because if they run an independent candidate, then that person is going to take votes away from whoever eventually is going to be the Republican candidate, whether it's Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, or President Trump himself. But none of this makes sense. It has to be calculated. It definitely seems orchestrated. And it's sickening. It's disgusting. And I keep saying it because we are at the 1 yard line. We have the ability to eradicate and vanquish the Democrat Party probably forever. They may never recover if President Trump's agenda is put out there. And because they know that, because they know that their nemesis would be vanquished, I almost feel like their bottom lines, their money is tied to having constant turmoil. Instead of realizing life would be so much better if we were just completely able to do what we needed to do to make America, i.e., great again. Maybe that's the key. Maybe they could. It's becoming apparent to me at this point that that's probably a good indicator of what's going on. Because the alternative, as you look at this movie taking place, the alternative as you look here is like, wow, things would be great. We wouldn't have crazy immigration. Nope. We'd have a Western hemisphere that's prosperous. We wouldn't have all the craziness and DEI and so, nope, all of it's gone. Think how hard it would be for some of the grievance merchants to make any sort of money if things were good. A lot of what goes on with podcasting and obviously the news, if it bleeds, it leads. If we have controversy, this is what they want to put up there. Nobody seems to want to laugh and actually enjoy life. So there has to be something, some sort of thorn, some sort of stone in their shoes that keeps people looking for these things. And I notice it in our chat too sometimes when I open up and I see what people are talking about, and I think to myself, why are we focused on that? Why are people talking about this or this thing instead of looking at the big prize in front of us? You know, everything I try to do sometimes, maybe too much, is talk about the prosperity and let people know what life could be like, what the big picture in all of this could be, and what President Trump is trying to do. And, you know, I talk about what's going on in the market and things of that nature. And right now you can actually see forces at work trying to stop the prosperity, trying to tamp things down. It's amazing to me how easy it is to look and see what's happening. People want to embrace turmoil. I don't think they're going to be comfortable with just prosperity, safety, and winning. I don't know. I've come accustomed to being someone that likes to see things winning, likes to see things going well. I mean, right now, as we look at the stock market, let me bring it up for you as we're waiting for President Trump to come on. You know, like I said, this to me is like the news that I want to see. We're looking at the stock market's up 120, Dow Jones up 120, S&P's up 10, NASDAQ's up 72, NASDAQ 100 up 55. Everything is green today on a Friday. Who knows what will happen after the rest of this cabinet meeting, what he announces, but Why aren't we, especially on a Friday, why aren't we enjoying life? Now, on a good note, I'm going to take some comments while we're waiting for him to come up. This is on a good note. This is the last weekend. Just so everybody knows, this is the last weekend before, in the next 6 or 7 months. The very last weekend for the next 6 or 7 months without some form of football. I can't wait. I really can't wait. I love it. All right, let me take some comments from you guys while we're waiting here. Hanukkah says deeper grave for the deep state. Absolutely. As a former athlete, Andrew says, I love winning. In a spiritual battle, this is a good one. In a spiritual battle, the enemy works focused on negative and misery. I choose joy. Yes, I don't want to be miserable. I don't want you guys to be miserable. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Imagine how high it would be if Washington actually did the job. You guys are getting it. You guys are seeing it like, we wouldn't have to be fretting. We wouldn't have to worry. The agenda here is to make the Western Hemisphere amazing. And then it could be amazing for everybody. And yet we're mired on crap for some reason. Andrew said, yes, football. Bring it on. September 5th for NCAA football. Is that when the kickoff classic is? I didn't know that. Let's see what else we got here. Watching the Colts training camp right now. Yeah, I know you're a diehard. If you're watching training camp and enjoying that, and then you probably are somebody who watches the NFL Combine and all these things, perfect, absolutely perfect. You're a diehard. Let's see, my team looks good. The Bengals, as long as Joe doesn't get hurt again. Tina says, I'm living life and loving it. No time to waste. Exactly. No time to waste. Go for the gusto. Not a football fan, but I appreciate the joy it gives millions of people across the nation. How can you not be a football fan? I'm just kidding. Yeah, of course, you don't have to be. As an Englishman, I love American optimism and hate to see Europeans' attitudes taking hold. Man, I don't even know what's going on with the president or whatever he is of Spain. How he's actually. Did you know they actually have a law that allows these people to do what they did yesterday? If they climb the fence, you want to hear something weird? If they climbed the fence and tried to get into the country, the police, soldiers, whatever, can immediately, without any law, without any approval, send them back. If you climb the fence. If you come around the fence, if you come through the water, you have to let them stay. It is the most incentive, which is what they did for the most part. They came through the water. They came in boats. I think even 8 or 9 people drowned trying to get through. It's crazy. What's this? It says, football is okay as long as it doesn't get political. Be proud of your flag and stand up for the national anthem. Even when they do that stupid stuff, and they had the thing on the back of their helmet, and they have the writing in the end zone, I block all that out. I want to see the game, the actual game. And one of the things that happened in the last couple of weeks is ESPN has cleaned house. A lot of the grievance merchants, they have fired them and have pushed them to the side. And if you watched, I don't know if you guys watch Stephen A. Smith much, but his stuff has even changed. Yesterday, he went after the Democrats and Fauci. And I'm like, what the hell's going on there? That was very interesting, to say the least. Let me just check something here. I'm not sure if I see him. I was checking to see if SB is in here. I dropped my love of... Where'd that go? I dropped my love of football when what's-his-face took a knee. Wish NFL was post-2017. Give it another shot. Seriously. When Colin Kaepernick decided he was going to kneel, yeah, it pissed me off too. I was completely disgusted. But over time, it has come back. And there are many many players now who have openly come out and they're praising America. There's still some scumbags in there. I mean, when you're talking about that many people in one location, but now it's different. They're not doing that anymore. Might be a few guys, but I don't see anybody kneeling and doing that crap anymore. Barry invites Stephen to come and join Trump's team. Stephen who? Invites Steve to come and joins Trump's team. I'm not sure who Stephen you're referring to. Colin Capra-Braids. That's a good analogy there. What else we hear? I wish I knew who Stephen was. What else? I live the best life I can today because I don't know if tomorrow will come. Good point. Because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people in Ceuta, Spain, who are living their best life, and they never realized one day they would open up and there'd be literally 40, 50,000 people climbing over their border, swimming across their border, and now breaking into homes. And see, it's one thing if these people were contrite and said, I need some help. I'm looking to come to a better life. That's not what they're doing. Don't let the left tell you that BS. Like yesterday in last night's show, I was talking about how Ayanna Pressley was saying they're great patriots. They love America. No, they don't. If you love a country and you really want to assimilate, then there would be no push 1 for English, push 2 for this, and push 3 for that. We wouldn't have to do that. You would assimilate. I don't want to turn into Andrew Dice Clay or anything, but you guys know the line. Get out the country. I always felt that. I mean, it just pisses me off when I call someplace and they tell me push 1 for this, push 2 for something else. No. The language here is English. It is our official language. There should be no push 2 or push 3. That's it. That's what you have to do. I'm sick of that. I hate it. To me, it's almost an insult. I didn't call your business to try and, be... People say it's racist. Not racist. It's American. What do we got here? Regarding the invasion, and the few who didn't make it to the welcome mat, not all the young men are healthy. Someone hoodwinked these guys. Yeah. Barry, I live and die by, what's that say? By my Chargers for over 55 years. Go Boats. Well, you guys, it's so funny you mentioned the Chargers. The Chargers ended up getting our former head coach from the Miami Dolphins is now the head offensive coordinator under Harbaugh out in San Diego. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but watch him cook this year. I don't ever think he was supposed to be a head coach. I think he's going to be a phenomenal offensive coordinator out there. My grandparents had to attend night school to learn English. Absolutely. Brandon Gill trying to make English a language of the U.S. It should. They'll never get passed because of these people and who they are. Good luck. Sorry, Barry Stephen A. Smith event. Stephen A. to become part of the Trump team. I think he's one of those people who closetly is going to be voting Republican because Stephen likes his ducats. He likes his money. I'm sick of having to press 1 for English and then get transferred to someone who doesn't speak it. I know that feeling, especially down here. I will end up handing the phone to Rob and I don't know what they're saying. Can you talk to these people? I can't deal it. Where is Tua? Tua is with the Atlanta Falcons. He's contending for the #1 job there against Michael Penix. They're both hurt. We're not even a full week into training season. Not even a full week, and they're both hurt. Michael Penix is recovering from an MCL or ACL tear, and Tua, he hurt his back throwing a football. Don't get me started. Somebody here is a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. You got 1 year, bro. You got one last year. Aaron has already said he's done. He's moving on, so you got 1 year left with Aaron Rodgers. How about the customer service calls that are not in America and can barely speak English? That should be a rule as well. That there should be a rule that if I'm calling you on a phone and I'm calling you based upon you being an American company, I shouldn't be calling India. You should have people here somewhere that are answering the phones. Then we wouldn't need H-1B visas and all that stuff. Make all the call centers here. I'm spending my money in a store at an American store, handing my money probably to an American salesperson, and then when something happens, I got to call this number in India. My grandparents learned English but talked native tongue. Nothing wrong with adjusting. No, I mean, I knew many people who spoke really. My dad spoke very, very good English, but when he got around his boys, they went to some Jamaican pidgin thing where, I'd have to turn my head going, what are y'all saying? But when he got into a business situation, he spoke English. I don't have any problem people talking amongst their friends in their native tongue. Barry, my Seattle Seahawks are going back-to-back Super Bowl champs. You think so, huh? I can't say they aren't. They got an unbelievable defense. What do we else here? Penix is from the Indiana University. You mean the defending champs? Yes. What else here? Let me go with some. Sandy, as a Chargers fan, I feel your pain. Let me look here some more. Did you see the idiotic House representative in Florida who forgot to file her financial paperwork on time and lost a House seat? Yes, I did. And what this, I was going to say woman, could be a man or woman. He's referring to one of our House Republicans here, completely lost her seat, can't even go to the election because she forgot to fill her paper on a deadline. And the judge, you give these judges an opportunity to screw a Republican, they're going to do it. They're definitely going to do it. And so we lost a House seat simply because she didn't file on time. Have to wonder, was it on purpose? Just saying. Just saying. Guess what? We have a socialist running down here, one town over from me, who's running against incumbent Republican. Oh, here, let's look at this. Hold on.
Almost surreal images of tens of thousands of migrants flooding from Spain, or into Spain rather, from Morocco. The stampede on your screen there turned deadly, and Spain has now activated its military. President Trump says this could be the U.S. if Democrats take the reins. And we'll soon know if Michigan Democrats...
Man. Can you imagine? We already went through it once, but could you imagine if they took over again, what would happen? It'd be absolutely frightening. I was watching all that all day yesterday, and I'm like, this is insane. By the way, when she said they activated the military, they sent like 100 people. That's what they sent there. They sent like 100 soldiers to try and stop or keep people safe from 50,000 people rushing over the border. Crazy. Barry, I can't wait to see what the Las Vegas Raiders are going to do. Well, I understand they're going to be using, what's the guy's name? Is it Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins is going to be the quarterback, and they're going to make Fernando Mendoza. Fernando. Is that his name? Whatever his name, Mendoza, sit on the bench, which isn't a bad thing. Kind of smart. Loved watching Johnny Carson's animal videos yesterday. Those were funny. Let's see here. We saw that 4 straight years under an auto pad. Yeah, I don't know if you saw the story about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, the hypocrisy of the Democrat Party knows no end. Kamala Harris bought an $8 million home. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Kamala Harris. let's bring this up. Yes, we have it right here. Kamala Harris. Oh well, I can't do it because he just walked on and the thing has started. All right, let's go.
It was not. Last visit was with Eisenhower, which allowed you onto the actual campus. And it's a long time ago, but never into this room. I want to thank all of you for being here. And again, this is a cabinet meeting. It's open. I've done a lot of open cabinet meetings, and I think it's out very well. Everybody can ask questions. We'll let you talk about certain things we can't answer because they're ongoing and very important. But this is one of the most talented teams ever to serve the United States and in the United States government. This is a talented group of people. Let's see, I don't want to turn down there. Yeah, there's a couple of steps, but that's okay. America is safer and stronger and far more successful than it was 2 years ago, and I think, frankly, that it ever was. I don't think it's ever been anything like this. And we're building more factories and plants in this country than we've ever built before. And we're going to be, at some point, we'll be leaving this position, and we're going to leave this country in very, very good shape, better shape than it's ever been. When we took office, we inherited a total catastrophe. The last administration created the worst inflation in 48 years, the most dangerous and insecure border in history, and exploding trade deficits like we have never seen before, rampant crime, men and women's sports, transgender mutilization of your children, and chaos and bedlam all over the world. Other than that, they did quite a good job. In less than 18 months, we've turned around 4 years of disaster, and we now have the strongest border in American history. We went from the worst border, I believe, of any country in history. 25 million people came through in 4 years. And these are people that, in many cases, you don't want. They were murderers, they were drug dealers, they were people that you do not want. But now we have the strongest border in American history, and for the last 15 months, the report just came out again, we've had no people coming in through our southern border, zero. And it's almost hard to say, because you'd say, is that even possible? They have 25 million people came in. We have no people coming in illegally through our southern border. And that's in history, so think of that, zero, a big beautiful zero. The murder rate saw its single largest drop ever recorded to the lowest in 125 years. That goes back to, think of it, goes back to 1900. Lowest murder rate in the history of our country. So that's something. Today, I just want to mention that we heard in Minnesota there was a cyber attack, and they blame it on Iran. I don't think so. I blame it on Minnesota because they're grossly incompetent. There was a cyber attack of 30 water plants, and I would blame it on Minnesota and the governor, the corrupt governor of Minnesota. They like to say, oh, it's Iran. Iran should be so lucky. Iran's got bigger problems than worrying about Minnesota. This month it was announced that inflation is dropping at the fastest rate in more than 6 years. Walmart, Sam's Club, Giant Eagle, and others are slashing prices by hundreds of grocery stores, and all of the stores, I mean, throughout the country, they're slashing prices, something that you haven't seen for a long time since my last administration. The stock market has set 73 all-time record highs since the election. That means all-time record highs, 73 days out of a very short period of time. And the typical 401k is up by more than $30,000. And when you think of that, if you add another $1,000 to it, it will be, we set the record in the last administration, a record still standing. This administration is going to blow my last administration away. When the factories that we're building at record, and we're not building them, all over the world they're building. They're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Germany with the cars. They're coming from Germany. They're coming from Japan, South Korea, Canada, Mexico. From all over the world, they're building auto plants here because otherwise they have to pay tariffs. The tariffs have made our country rich and successful. And all of this, I mean, I'd like to say it was the election On November 5th, it was the election, and that's fine. But without the election, you wouldn't have what I've done economically. So we have the most successful environment that we've ever had. There's never been anything like it from the standpoint of investment into our country. It's 5 to 6 times higher than anybody has ever seen, than any other country, not just us, has ever had. On July 4th, we launched Trump Accounts, a key provision of our great, big, beautiful bill. And these tax-free investment savings accounts have already been activated by over 7 million children. These are investments made in our future, which is our children. Our children are the most important aspect of our future, with more being added each day. So it's a tremendous hit. Over 7 million, and it really just got going, I would say, Scott, about 2 weeks ago when it was, we got the final approvals. And we have over 7 million. Actually, there's never been anything quite like that. But millions of accounts are pre-funded with $1,000 from the U.S. Treasury, or generous gifts from private donors like Michael and Susan Dell and others who have given billions of dollars. Billions. People are putting up hundreds of millions and billions of dollars into it and buying really a great future for children. When they turn 18 or when they turn 21, instead of having no hope, no future, they will end up with hundreds of thousands of dollars and maybe even more than that. So it's going to be something to see. With modest additional contributions, they'll grow by numbers that it could be over $200,000. We're looking at the timeline. I wish we had an economy like we have now, with the stock markets going up, but they will benefit by our country being successful. We're going to give every child a head start on the American dream. So go to trumpaccounts.gov. They're really something, the whole world's talking about it, and it's far ahead of schedule. Nobody thought it would be as successful as it's been, but it should be. It should be. And we started off with $1,000, and this was part of the great, big, beautiful bill. With my most favored nation policy, you could say this is even a bigger thing, if that's possible. On drug prices, we're achieving record discounts on prescription drugs. The prescription drugs were going through the roof for many years, and now we're getting record discounts with price differences of 300, 400, 500, 600%. Nobody's ever heard of a thing like that. And what this is all about is that we had the highest prices anywhere in the world by far. Most expensive drugs, prescription drugs, and others. The highest in the world. The whole world was laughing at us. We paid for the rest of the world. We subsidized the whole world, and I said, we're not going to do that. And I started it in the first administration. I took it up. Obviously, Biden wasn't able to do anything about it, because you had to get the consent of the drug companies, and you had to get the consent. More difficult would be the consent of other nations. The other nations had to agree, but they were paying a fraction, sometimes 10%, 20%, 40%, 70% less. So I had to call them, and I had to get them on, and I said, if you don't do it, we're going to have to charge you tariffs. And they all said no at first, very politely said, sir, we can't do that. We're not going to double our prices. They had to double their prices, and in some cases triple their price, and we would come down. So a pill that sold for $10 in Germany would sell for $130 in New York. Same pill for the same company, the same factory, the same plant, same laboratory, from $10, and we pay $130. I said, no. Now the world is a bigger place, so it's not as bad as it sounds for them. So they went up to 20, and we came down to 20. So we now have the lowest drug prices anywhere in the world. We're tied with the lowest, but we're basically its favored nation. So we have the lowest drug prices anywhere in the world from the highest drug prices anywhere in the world. Now what that does for your health care, I mean, I see these fake polls where the Democrats have wonderful numbers on this stuff, and they are horrible what they've done. Obamacare is a total disaster. It's a costly wreck. It's unaffordable. We call it the Unaffordable Care Act. It's a disgrace. They never even thought of being able to do something like this. They didn't even try. They didn't even try. So I got the drug companies first, and then I got the countries. And the drug companies agreed because they knew the countries wouldn't agree. And when I called Germany, France, when I called the UK, when I called all of these countries, I said, you got to do it. It's unfair. We're paying 10 times more than you're paying for the same drug. You can't do this. And they said, well, we're not going to do that because we're going to have to double our price in order to make you happy. I said, no, maybe you're going to have to triple your price. They said, well, we can't do it. I said, that's all right. If you can't do it, then I can't do something also. And I'm going to charge you very substantial tariffs, which are far more than we're talking about. And they all said, we'd love to do it. We'd love to do it. It would be a great honor to do it. So nobody else would do this. This would have never happened. So your drug prices have gone down by numbers not even thinkable. My first term, I had the privilege of having lower drug prices from the beginning of the year till the end for the first time in 28 years, you remember. And I called a news conference to announce it. So the year had ended, and I was turned out 1/8 of a percent. 1/8 of a percent, little tiny this much. It went down that much during 1 year. First time in 28 years it went down. It was always like this, just up, more expensive. And I called a news conference. I was so proud of myself, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, first time in 28 years drug prices have gone down from January till the end of December. And I want to just congratulate everybody for being a part of this wonderful experiment. And 1/8 of a point now, we're talking about 400, 500, 600% coming down. We pay the lowest drug prices anywhere in the world from the highest. So, and I'll say it again and again because the press doesn't want to report it, the fake news doesn't want to report it. They don't want to talk about it. What that does for healthcare, Bobby, is unbelievable because medicine's a big part of healthcare. So I wish that people would understand that, and I hope they're going to vote for us in the midterms because you'll see some stuff that will be horrible because they can blow it very fast and they don't know what they're doing. So your drug prices are great. I saw Spain yesterday, and I watched the catastrophe that took place. It looks like an invasion of a country by hundreds of thousands of people. And that same thing's going to happen to us if the Republicans don't get elected, except worse. Much bigger, much easier to get into, despite the fact that we have built thousands of miles of wall, which I said we were going to do, but we didn't have that, forget it. But we have the safest border in the world. If we're not in office, our country will be invaded at levels that made Spain look small time. And when I watched it, I said, boy, I'm going to say it because I knew you were going to be at Camp David. And I say, that's going to be a talking point for the midterms. Because when you look at what happened to Spain, they don't know what to do. And it's happening again today. They're coming in by the tens of thousands. They're just invading the country. And what that is weak law, bad management, but very liberal law. They passed a couple of laws, and people read. People are smart. They read from other countries, and they swam that 3-mile swim, or however they got in, but nobody's seen anything like it. That will look good compared to what's going to happen to the United States. The biggest thing, the worst thing that Biden did is allowing 25 million people into our country, because many of those people are criminals. They're murderers. A lot of murder. 11,888. A lot of them are gone now. We got them out. But they allowed people to come into this country that you can't allow to come into a country. We're also making an unprecedented investment in the United States Armed Forces, where we're doing great. And we rebuilt the armed forces. We rebuilt our military in my first term. But we are doing great with our military. They spent a lot of money in our military. They gave away $300 billion worth of ammo and everything else in Biden's term. But we're building it up fast, and we just have a great military. That's all there is to it. But we rebuilt it in my first term, and we're using it in my second term with Venezuela and other places, and Iran now. Iran is doing very poorly, just in case you read incorrect stories. They're doing very, very poorly. They're having a hard time. They've been very dishonest. They've been very dishonorable to deal with. But that makes no difference. They're doing very, very poorly. We're also making that investment and looking forward to getting $1.5 trillion next year. People see now how important it is. We want to keep a safe country. We have to keep a safe country. And the good news is all of that equipment is made in the USA. So we're making it here. It's jobs. And each one of our defense groups are building literally at least 4 new massive plants as we speak. because we want them to move faster. We have the best equipment in the world, but we want them to move faster. We don't want to wait a year or a year and a half. We want to wait a week, maybe. So that's happening, and I think the results are very good. They're building at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And we've had tremendous success, and our military was just proud of it. Again, Venezuela was a one-day war, and we have a great relationship with Venezuela. We're working with partners with Venezuela now, taking out tens of millions of barrels of oil, and going to Houston, going to Alaska, going to Louisiana, going to different places for refineries, and it's been very much amazing. The administration has done more in 18 months than most administrations have done in 8 years if you had a two-termer. We've done more in 18 months than anyone's ever seen before. Nobody's ever seen. This is the golden age of America. And we have a war that's going on. Unless you call it a war, maybe I call it a military operation. They have no Navy, it's been obliterated. Their Air Force has been obliterated. They have no planes. Their missiles have been largely, they have some left, but they have far fewer than they had 4 or 5 months ago. Their manufacturing capacity is almost gone. The drone capacity is almost gone, very few, but they have some. They have one that's too many as far as I'm concerned. But we've done an amazing job with Venezuela. We've done an amazing job here. We're in there for 5 months. You know, I know what people like to say because we've done a much bigger job, much more important job than we originally anticipated. So we're in there for 5 months, and if you look at Vietnam, they were in there for 20 years. You look at Afghanistan, they were in there for many years. You look at any one of the wars, Korea, any one of them, they're in there for many years. We're in for 5 months, and we have obliterated their military capacity. Again, they've got some left, but soon they won't have some left. So I just want to thank everybody around this table. You've been very special. I want to thank a lot of the media people because many of you have been very, very fair and it's one of the reasons you're here, frankly. But you've been very fair. You've covered me this time much more fairly, I think, than the first term. The first term was a great success. We had the greatest economy in history in the first term, and this term is going to blow it away. I think this term is going to actually blow it away. So it's an honor to have you, and I'd like to ask our great Vice President, J.D. Vance, to say a few words, followed by Marco and Pete and Scott and Bobby Kennedy. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Please, J.D.
Well, great. Thanks, Mr. President. First of all, thanks for having us at this historical. It's sometimes hard. Once the money has already gone out the door, it's hard to get it back. But stopping it from going out the door is how we save the American people $56 billion. And of course, we're going to keep on working on that. Just today, Mr. President, we will announce 17 new anti-fraud actions that will total about $1/3 of $1 billion, and that's added to the $230 billion that we've already uncovered. And I want to just talk the benefit of the American people about why do we care so much about this? Because what I always try to remind people is that fraud has 2 victims. So, to give one concrete example, there is a program that is administered by Medicaid, and that program ensures that low-income moms and low-income babies have access to neonatal care. Now, I think most Americans probably share my view that this is one of the great things about the United States of America, that if we see a baby and we see a young mother that requires help, we help our fellow Americans. That's a good thing. It's something that we should be proud of. And yet, there is a program that has defrauded the moms and the babies who benefit from these. You've gotten people who've gotten rich by setting up false companies that are providing false services. So who loses in that equation? Number one, of course, is the American taxpayer that is $230 billion poorer because of the fraud that this country has let go on. But I actually, most importantly, is that we've seen that program run out of money. So we've seen moms and babies unable to access the health care that they need because the fraudsters have gotten rich. That is a disgrace. And until the president ordered us to stop it, no one was doing anything about it. So we've made a lot of progress, Mr. President, in just under a year. But we're going to keep on working at it because we believe the American people deserve to have their money money spent as you and the Congress have directed.
There's big numbers you're finding, tremendous numbers. They look like Elliot Ness. Does anybody know? They look like that group of people you have lined up behind you. They're doing a great job.
Yes, sir.
Billions, think of not millions, billions of dollars is being recovered. Billions. And you haven't seen anything yet. We have things happening that people aren't going to believe. The level of corruption and fraud that took place under the Biden administration is unprecedented. And Minnesota, California, Maine, believe it or not. You know, you think of Maine as this wonderful place.
Yep.
It's the level of corruption is incredible, all over. So, great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, please.
Oh, my turn. Well, first of all, thank you for bringing us out here. I got the chance to drive for the first time in a year and a half, which is the golf cart. It was fun. It was great. And so just a couple points that we all know. We've followed in the news, obviously, the events in the Middle East, and others who have talked about that. Not that they're not important, but there's some other issues happening around the world, Mr. President, that you've shown great leadership in that have not gotten nearly as much attention. I think they deserve a mention today. The first is the International Criminal Court is an illegitimate international organization that, frankly, illegitimate. They've made themselves illegitimate because they claim that even if you're not a member of that court, they can come after you. What that literally means in the future is that American servicemen, political leaders, and others could find themselves under indictment by this International Criminal Court. Did you want to know a little bit about it? Jack Smith used to work there. These are the people that think they can go out and basically indict any world leader and haul them into The Hague. So we tried to get them to reform and listen to us. They wouldn't do it. They're very arrogant. We've now begun an effort to really try to bring that court to heel.
Boy, there's no information that they're after me. It could happen. But just so you know, just you talking about it, I'm saying that means that maybe he's not trying to defend me. He is trying to defend Bibi and various other people. But there are many people that shouldn't be looked at that way. But there is no indication that I'm one of them at this moment.
Well, and I actually think the people who are in biggest danger in our system are servicemen, people in unit. That they'll try to go out for the rest of their lives, will not be able to travel anywhere in the world with their families because they can be arrested on one of these nights. Imagine, like, you're a soldier, you fought in a war, and 20 years later they try to come grab you. So this is a big problem. So we've had dozens of countries already join us in this effort. Since we started 2 weeks ago, 5 countries have already quit the ICC and notified them that they're leaving, and we think there'll be more. The second thing is we had an unprecedented ministerial. 60 countries came to Washington, and we're a part of an effort where we were shedding light on far-left terrorism and violence. You know, the bomb goes off somewhere and it's tied to some right-wing group, or what I don't consider neo-Nazis right-wing, I consider them Nazis, right? But you're going to get a lot of attention on that. But if it's a leftist group, an Antifa group, that gets no coverage, or they ignore the ideological spin and the ideological reason behind it. So we've got 60 countries came up here and hopefully creating a strong coalition to go after far-left violent terrorism. Go after it and call it by name. I think we're building a very strong coalition there. We've had some successes in the Middle East, Mr. President, as you know, in the diplomatic front. The deal with Lebanon and Israel is unprecedented. President Ayoun was here a week ago. I think that was the first visit by a Lebanese president in over 30-some-odd years. In fact, this is the first time the Israelis and the Lebanese government have spoken at the official level in close to 30 years. And that was thanks to your leadership. A lot of work to be done to keep that peace and build on it, but it's a real achievable. And of course, as you announced last night, Mr. President, this disarmament deal that you brought about with Steve and Jared's work on Hamas is another big step as well. It's something a lot of people thought would never happen. It needs to happen, but the fact that even agreed to it is a real achievable. Last point is on the Western Hemisphere. For the first time in 15, 20 years, the overwhelming majority of the countries in the Western Hemisphere are now led by pro-American leaders and pro-American governments. It's an extraordinary achievement. All of it happening through virtually every election that's happened in the Western Hemisphere since you were elected president has elected someone who was pro-American. And I think this is an incredible situation. And last but not least, and I have to thank a number of agencies here, particularly the Department of War, after that terrible earthquake in Venezuela. Within 36 hours, the full force of the American government was on the ground providing humanitarian assistance. It was a sight to behold. The USS Ford, I think, was in their port. Our Marines and armed service personnel. We're helping run their airport and their tower. It is one of the fastest, most dramatic, and most effective humanitarian responses, certainly in recent history, if not ever. And they came at the direction of the president. In fact, within an hour of that earthquake hitting, I remember because I was overseas, the president called and said, make sure we go in there and help these people recover from this. And we did. And thanks to your leadership, Mr. President. It's a great story. Enough needs to be told about it because the credit goes to so many agencies represented here. But really, the Department of War was phenomenal. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mark. And just before we continue, I want to just congratulate Jay Clayton. He's with us today. As you know, he just had a big victory. He's going to do a fantastic job. He's only done his whole life has been about doing a fantastic job. So congratulations.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for the invitation, the opportunity to be here. It's an honor for the War Department to help run this facility also, from the food to the fence line. It's an honor to have you, and it's great Americans here and all around the country and all around the world who are the core of what keep us safe. But in order to do that, you have to have a leader that's willing to put them in a position to do it. And that's my takeaway, Mr. President, is sort of 3 points. One, it takes courage. 2, it takes restoring a spirit, which you have done. And 3rd, it takes investment, and not just an investment, but a generational investment. And I think people miss that. The courage it takes to seal the border, to say we're going to do it, and we're going to do it every single day, and we're going to do it on behalf of the American people. The courage to bomb the Houthis and say we will maintain freedom of navigation. I wonder why they're not involved in this conflict, the Houthis, even though they're a proxy of Iran, is they felt the weight of American power for 45 days, and you had the courage to do that. The courage to do Midnight Hammer and conclude the 12-day war by obliterating their nuclear sites. Something other presidents had the option on their table to do, but they never pulled the trigger because of the complications, because of the challenges, because of the risk. Courage. The courage to take on the cartels and drug boats, and now forming the ACCC, the America's Counter Cartel Coalition, with all those friendly governments that Marco talked about, who want to be shoulder to shoulder, not just with America, but with a bold, strong America with clear leadership. The courage to go get Maduro in the most dangerous, most heavily guarded house, inside the most heavily guarded fort, inside the most heavily guarded town in their capital city in the middle of the night, and change the entire dynamic of that country and that region. And the world saw what the American military was capable to do, but that doesn't happen unless the commander-in-chief says you're authorized to do it, and will take the handcuffs off when you do it to ensure that Americans come home. The courage to undertake Epic Fury and this Iranian regime and ensure they never have a nuclear weapon, which remains your commitment. And frankly, the courage to negotiate with people that have shown no willingness to do so honestly, incredible negotiators who are the best in the world, and give them every opportunity to do it, give those things up peacefully. All of that takes guts. But that comes on the backs of a change in the spirit of our department. You talk about spirit all the time, and you're right to do so. When you rip out DEI, when you rip out social engineering and social justice, and you put in merit, and then you untie the hands of commanders to be commanders, to enforce discipline and accountability, to get back to basics, then you get historic re-enlistment inside our ranks. Our best people, Mr. President, are staying because they want to be in that kind of department. And then historic recruitment record amongst young Americans every month. Our department breaks records. And when did that trend line start? On Election Day, 2024, when the American people said, I want to serve under this president. And that new name, the Department of War, has become the ethos, the warrior ethos of our department. Again, spirit. And I will know the flyovers will indeed continue until morale improves. But that's also spirit. Parades, 250, flyovers, the American people seeing and feeling their military in ways they have not in the past. That's spirit. And then finally, Mr. President, a generational investment. You rebuilt the military in your first term. You've spent in your first year $1 trillion, and now we are committed in working with Congress to get $1.5 trillion. But this is not the same way we funded our department in the past. This is a businessman in charge. This is a deputy secretary of our department who's a turnaround guy, just like the president is, saying we will not fund money, we will not fund the department the way we have in the past. In fact, so far, $75 billion in private investment from defense companies who are now investing in new plants, new equipment, new assembly lines to build the munitions of the future faster than ever possible. That's saving taxpayer dollars because the companies themselves are investing. That would never, the arsenal of freedom would never happen without you. So just like we use a lot of things Ronald Reagan's building was a part of, in this administration and in future administrations, they will look back at Donald Trump and the buildup that he has done, and that will be, the deterrence of the future will be established because of your investment. So thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership.
Thank you. Scott, please.
Mr. President, it's an honor to be here in this historic place as we celebrate our nation's 250th anniversary. And I think if we look back, whether our founders, President Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, could not have imagined the economy that we would have created. It is the envy of the world. And as you said, we have record investment coming in. We've never seen anything like it. And we're pulling away from the rest of the world because of your leadership, the policies that you did from day one in terms of digital assets, in terms of technology, and bringing back American manufacturing.
Hunters on the warpath, the target, same as the commies.
I'm not running for anything, so I can say whatever the I want. And here's what I think. I think Chuck Schumer's a piece of and that he my dad over. Nancy Pelosi at the time also was involved in that, and so I don't have anything nice to say about it.
We're not fans
and you know
of
what?
Nancy.
And I'm supposed to be the guy that says, oh, but you know what? What for what Nancy Pelosi has contributed to this country and to the Democratic Party? I'm not supposed that, man.
Biden Jr. slashing attacks are drawing blood. Schumer's already wounded, and Hunter's laying the wood to him on Barstool. That's going to get traction with young men. The Democrat Party can't afford to lose any more men. More on that later. Their generals are being disrespected. The revolution's coming right at them.
Trump has turned it into the single most profitable scam of his. Please sit down. Please sit down.
How dare you talk about corruption? How dare you talk about corruption?
Thank you for your diatribe. Now, let's continue. Let's continue and let the people didn't come to hear you.
The Hamas wing wants Chuck's head on a platter, and Hunter's bringing the machete to the fatwa. The party stabbed his dad in the back, but left the son alive. The mainstream media won't put him on. He's banned. And being banned makes you look dangerous, and danger sells. He's a threat to the machine, and he's not a communist. He's carving his own lane.
You know who stood with my dad? 100%. Black Caucus, Hispanic Caucus, the Progressive Caucus, all of the constituent parts of the Democratic Party, which are the base, whether you like it or not. But you know who didn't stand with him? The editorial board of the New York Times, the Pod Save America guys, David Axelrod, Rahm Emanuel, all of the technocrats of the Democratic Party that don't have any feel or touch for the actual people that actually organize and vote. But they speak for them all the time. So that part did piss me off.
Respect is everything in politics. But when you lose power, you lose respect. So the party's dragging Joe's name through the mud because it cost them.
People want fighters. I think President Biden and Kamala Harris lost the last election because nobody believed that they were fighters. At least they believed Trump was a fighter. He'd fight with a fire hydrant just for the fun of it.
Hunter Biden's a scrappy cat. A source told me a story about him. He was walking with his brother Bo on a college campus. Some guy poked his head out of the second story of a fraternity house, started yelling at Hunter, "F you, your dad sucks." Bo said, "Don't do it, Hunter." Next thing you know, Hunter runs to the house, climbs straight up the facade, grabs a kid from his collar, throws him down from the second floor window, and just pounds him. It happened so fast, no one even knew what happened. And then they went to the bar. The Democrats could use someone with some animal instincts.
And as it relates to Donald Trump, him, his sons, his daughter. I mean it, all of them, the whole family, down to the grandchildren. I hope for the rest of time that I am on this earth, that their names will live in ignominy.
Democrats are banking on a bruiser. That's not Mamala. And knee pads, Never been in the ring with anybody legit. The party is so weak, it's a turnoff. A new Quinnipiac poll says only 20% of men approve of the Democratic Party. It's basically a bachelorette party. They're loud, a little annoying, and spends everybody else's money. You can't win an election without men. Sorry to break it to you, but we're half the vote. Kamala, AOC, guys don't go for that. You can't forget about the fellas.
If you're a Teamster driving a truck out of, up in Lackawanna County in PA, is that, you can vote for Joe Biden because he's probably just as confused as you are about transgenderism, and he's not going to shove it down your throat, okay? And he's going to support your union. And he's going to but really, I think people miss that about that. Like, this focus on 0.2% of the population is insane to me. Like, leave him be, man. Like, Jesus Christ, must be hard enough already. Just leave the be.
Hunter wants to throw woke overboard. Pennsylvania is the Keystone State. It's the key to the Democrat comeback. When Democrats win it, they win the White House. Scranton Joe Jr. gets it. And so does Senator Schreck.
Do a bunch of people sit around the room and say, how much kind of crazy we cram into our platform? And now it's like, oh yeah, let's abolish everything.
When a child is 3 years old, you know what their favorite thing to do is? Break stuff. They like the sound it makes. They like watching the pieces scatter, hear it shatter. It's fun. It's cause and effect. They're realizing that they have the power to break stuff. Makes them feel good. They like breaking better than building. Communists are at that stage developmentally. They want to abolish the presidency, the Senate, Pentagon, police, prisons, and of course, ICE.
I think that ICE should be abolished, and that the people at the head of this agency and the people that are shooting people in masked, the ICE agents that are killing people should be prosecuted and held accountable under United States courts of law. Let's be clear about who we're ascribing criminality to.
Communism's pretty simple. It's just turning everything upside down and watching it break. It's a revenge against America. They want to arrest the man and open up the prisons.
Would you like to have criminals out in the open?
Well, do I want criminals out in the open? Sure, I'm fine with that, because the idea of a criminal is like a little bit funny to me.
Let's just say somebody who has raped a woman.
Totally.
Would you like them to be out in the street?
I think my answer is yes, even though that's a challenging answer to say.
When Joe Schmo comes out of prison after serving his rape sentence, Commie Chris Rob You Blind wants to hand him a paycheck for his hard work.
In Pennsylvania, they earn 19 cents an hour for the same work folks do outside. And how are victims going to get their restitution from incarcerated folks if those folks on the inside who's supposed to pay them back are getting 19 cents an hour?
This is what the Obama-Biden party has come to. They lost the men and are trying to win them back. Not really. They're replacing them with migrants and communists.
Let me tell you, labels, of course, are being thrown around on both sides. I look for progressive values that I have supported over the years and continue to. There are some who are more aggressive than others. Progressives are joining us in this effort, and we need them.
He said it. They need them. They'll take anything or anyone. You know people like that. No standards. People with no standards have no self-respect, and they get walked all over. That's what we're watching. Now, the only way to get respect is to earn it.
I want your viewers to say how much I love to watch Israel eliminating the Hamas leadership. Then you may like this. I know that upsets a lot of your viewers and a lot of your founders. Yeah. So, but I think it's a great thing. The question is, where does your trash outlet come from, and who's funding it? And now you're sticking a microphone in my face. So,
on your face. Are you okay with Prime Minister Netanyahu being in the United States?
I love killing Hamas leadership.
Say what you want about Fetterman, but he has strong principles, and he sticks to them. You can disagree with how he feels about Israel, but you always know where he stands, and you respect it. The man's not a weasel. That's why he's a big threat to the left. He's the only one holding the line. That's why they want to put his head on a stake. But Big John's been laughing it off and going on offense.
if someone is frustrated in the Democratic Party, I would be frustrated with someone like Bernie Sanders. Really, Bernie, you have no regret endorsing and proud to stand with an accused rapist, a guy that roughs up his ex-girlfriends, a guy that had a Nazi tattoo on his chest. Some of the things that are outrageous as a Democrat are coming from people in this party, and it's not me.
For far too long, Democrats tiptoed around Bernie Sanders and then had the superdelegates just kneecap him in the dark. Sooner or later, the Democrats are going to have this fight under the bright lights. And Bernie, he wants that smoke.
Well, I would not put too much credibility in what somebody like Fetterman says.
He said you should sit this out.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Do you think I should take his advice? I probably won't. So John, not going to take your advice.
Think about it. This is Vermont versus Pennsylvania. Which state do the Democrats want to side with? Now, Fetterman's from Braddock, a rundown town that saw all its factory jobs move to China. That's a base the party needs if they want to win. But the Bernie bros and the commies, that's not their cup of tea. They're a bunch of wackos with grad degrees. They spend all their money on Grubhub. They're lazy and they're entitled.
People are like, oh yeah, well, I'm supposed to have that. Well, I deserve that. Well, why don't we have that? Don't we have that? Shouldn't we have that? Who gets that? And then it's like, oh, okay, well, that's democratic socialism.
That's a bad attitude, Bush. You don't deserve anything. You're not entitled to anything you don't work for. Oprah, my girl, has had it with this crowd.
You ain't had no work-life balance at 22?
That's
23?
tearing us up, by the way. We're all trying to look for the balance. It ain't fair.
No.
It ain't fair. It's tearing us up.
It's not there. It's not there. You're not supposed to have it. You're supposed to lay it in the work.
Again, this is a real statement from the now presumptive Democratic nominee for the governor of Wisconsin. Again, her name, Francesca Hong, that she proudly posted on X, quote, "Police exist to uphold white supremacy. Defund them, abolish, reform cannot be an option." Or just to drive the point home, she also tweeted her plans as a local government official, quote, 1, defund police, 2, defund police, 3, defund police, 4, defund police, 5, craft 2021 budget. But get this, more recently, she did find one acceptable use of law enforcement as governor. She would want to command the National Guard to arrest federal ICE agents that are doing a very difficult, dangerous job. Take a watch.
I don't want us to continue to rely on law enforcement, but if the National Guard has to be out here arresting ICE agents, that's...
Yeah.
We have to meet state-sanctioned violence with, parts of the state sometimes.
Now, despite denials from her campaign, she also called in writing for the U.S. Senate to be abolished. In her social media accounts, she claimed to live in occupied Ho-Chunk land, whatever that means. In 2020, she suggested that it was racist for white people to mention the origins of COVID-19. Now, unfortunately, there is nothing unique about Hong's extreme positions. This is the perfect illustration, representation of the socialist base, the radical communist base now that is the Democratic Party. Any moderates that exist beyond John Fetterman, their silence is deafening. Take a look at your screen. Democratic socialists are loud and they are proud about overthrowing the entire American system. They want to abolish the Senate, the Supreme Court, the White House, the Department of War, private health insurance. They want to dissolve America's borders, abolish ICE, seize the means of production. If they get their way, you will own nothing, your hard work will be meaningless, and there will be no natural incentive to create or build anything. The government will rule with an iron fist, and the masses, they will suffer. It has been tried again and again and again, always ends the same way. Unfulfilled promises, more poverty than when you began, a loss of freedom that you will then calculate, and a bunch of power-hungry politicians. Good luck getting them out of power at some point. Just like every other socialist country in the history of the planet. In the U.S., checks and balances, they can be frustrating, but they're standing in the way of people like Francesca Hong. Ronald Reagan famously said, "The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I am here to help." Or in Fauci's case, they're around to
500,000 words written down in his diary. Very few of them were about actually helping and saving lives and helping the American people. Instead, Fauci wrote about his own fame, his very good looks, in his opinion, how sexy he is, his dear friendships with Jake Tapper and Julia Roberts and other so-called celebrities. Fauci also detailed his own lies and deceit, along with evidence of potential criminal misconduct.
So yesterday, Dr. Fauci avoided every question like it was a bat soup enema. But you know who really stole the show? Rand Paul.
But you didn't disclose your role in the discussions that preceded the writing of the paper. You did not disclose the author's original concerns. You did not reveal what you
I think we have a stalker in our graphic arts department. But if anyone knows who that is, tell her I'm definitely not the guy who keeps calling her and hanging up. But until she came along, we were there for one man. A doctor, chasing fame during a global pandemic, while lives were lost, businesses ruined, and the true origin of the virus covered up like a sore on Barbra Streisand's ass. It's the story of a lifetime, Pulitzer-worthy even, unless you're these douchebags.
The whole thing was an intentional circus.
Today's hearing was a kind of bizarre show trial.
This is an assault on science and scientists.
This is a show trial. This is Rand Paul deeply invested in this narrative that there was a conspiracy.
The Senate holding fiery and at times farcical hearings.
Watching Anthony Fauci before a congressional hearing taking the Fifth Amendment is just one of the most heartbreaking things I have seen in government in my lifetime.
It breaks my heart. I can't believe we're back here. I can't believe we're relitigating this.
Relitigating? This is the story that breaks your heart? What broke our hearts were parents getting arrested for taking their kids to playgrounds that were emptier than a WNBA game, or small businesses crushed by shutdowns while BLM rioters rampaged like it was Black Friday at Walmart. All because Fauci said a manageable virus was deadlier than sharing a motel room with Hunter Biden. Meanwhile, one dope blamed senators for demanding answers. You know the guy, he has beady hillbilly eyes and a wig that belongs on a Spanish bullfighter.
The Fauci thing, just sheer political theater. They shamed themselves. We Americans needed answers yesterday. What you're doing is you're staging nothing but a show trial. And so
great performance.
He didn't play along. It's an embarrassing performance. This guy swearing that and then you had other people, you know, what's the color of your tie? What's the color of the car? It was such a clown show.
You would know.
Yeah. He would know. This clown says that we wanted answers. The whole hearing featured a man who refused to give them. So why aren't these reporters actually seeking answers? They call themselves journalists after all, fearless truth tellers. But that's it's a fairy tale, a romantic fantasy that's been with us since all the president's men. You know the story of journalists who broke Watergate. Remember the scandal so massive we compare everything to it? And add the suffix "gate" to anything the media perceives as bad, like Russiagate, Deflategate, and when Kathy Griffith shows up, lock the gate. But reality is different. Watergate's bungled burglary was bad, but common in American politics. And the media's role in it, uncovering it, is a myth. No, Washington Post reporters Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein did not single-handedly bring down a president. It was mostly police work. Key breakthroughs came from the FBI, the feds, Senate Watergate Committee, grand juries, and the courts. All the press did was turn a sketchy political practice into a national psychodrama that damaged the country as it created a fallacy that the media could be trusted to do big stories. No, they haven't done one since. Nor did they even do that one. It's all fantasy. Because when the real big stories break, they switch from Woodward to Bernstein to Laurel and Hardy. Think about it. The biggest political scandal of all time, a president in cognitive decline from day one, shielded by staffers, isolated from the press, unaware of what he's signing. Media missed that. The biggest moral scandal, how about gaslighting Americans into thinking you can chop off healthy body parts on kids? They missed that one too. The biggest domestic security scandal of all time, try an open border that let in murderous criminals and terrorists. Only Fox covered that, and we were mocked for it. And now the biggest health scandal, government officials funding risky gain-of-function research on bat viruses at a lab whose methods, timing, location, and outcomes closely match the appearance of a novel virus that killed millions. Kind of makes Watergate look like that time I dozed off at work and drove that school bus off a cliff. But the media didn't just ignore those stories, they shut down anyone who brought them up. It's why they couldn't cover the hearings, because they'd have to cover themselves. Hell, Jake Tapper, Abby Phillips, Rachel Maddow, Joe Scarborough, David Muir, Lawrence O'Donnell, Chuck Todd, they all should have been sitting up there next to Fauci yesterday. Fact is, the media refuses to follow the facts because they always lead back to them. Let's welcome tonight's guest. Police call her a star because she has 5 points on her license. Outnumbered co-host Emily Campagno. He looks like the guy who leans against the car outside of high school. She's so skinny, people from third world countries send her food. New York Times bestselling author, contributor, and he's the only panelist with a 12,000-pound towing capability. Former NWA World Champion, host of the Planetary Podcast. All right. Emily, you are a lawyer, and I can barely contain my rage when Stephanie Ruhle says, why are we relitigating this? We're talking about something that caused 12 million deaths worldwide. We still don't know why they made the decisions they made, what they were covering up, but we don't want to relitigate that. Let's go do January 6th.
Their cure for everything became historically the biggest catastrophe ever. And we know that the left's identity is built on control, and that control exists through fear. So my opinion is that the reason that they can't go into this at all is because it would reveal to them that something that for those years that they fought over and protested over, rioted over, lied over, canceled over, was simply a sham. It would lead to the realization that the Wizard of Oz was in fact just an egomaniacal, tiny little, powerful, smug, surly man who refused to look, by the way, any senator in the eye when they were pointing out those million deaths in this country. And that's the saddest part, that the worse to the Dems than the million deaths, the hundreds of thousands of livelihoods lost and kids' lives destroyed, worse than all of that destruction is simply the realization that it was all a sham. And then with that, pulling that string means that it's also a sham. They like to say everything now, their F word is conspiracy. And it used to mean something attached to tinfoil hats. Now it's just asking questions. Then it was daring to ask questions. Remember, the good doctor is the one that said democracy would be destroyed if we failed to roll out the vaccines and forced everyone to wear a mask. That was democracy, was everyone questioning the unilateral authoritative voice that he had, that every government followed. And those states that dared to say not on my watch and we are going to question it, they were canceled, they were mocked, and now it's been baked into their institution. So you are right, they will refuse ever to even look at the diary, and that's why their answers have to do with either shaming him or simply about the horrifying nature of the deaths itself. Because if they were even to go into the government encroachment, then they would point that finger right back at themselves and obliterate their identity.
All right, so Jim, don't you wish you had the media to cover for you when you killed people?
Under the Fifth Amendment, he doesn't have to answer that.
I plead the Fifth 111 times.
Yes.
First of all, it's amazing that he pleaded the fifth over 100 times.
Yeah.
Like, if my ex-girlfriend hated talking as much as Fauci did, we'd still be together. But it's just amazing how they're just so complicit. Like, they're gaslighting the public, the media with this. It's all in the diary. All the stuff is in there. And they're just pretending it didn't happen.
Yeah. What kind of guy has a diary, Jim?
It's true. It's true, but I mean, it's almost like the media's like, even though he said it came from the Wuhan lab, it might not have been that Wuhan lab. We don't know.
Yes. There's a whole chain of them down the block. By the way, I just want to point out one thing when stupid head Scarborough says, oh, he asked him what color his tie he had. He did that to show you that he was using the fifth for non-incriminating questions, which almost negates the whole point of using the fifth. If you're watching it, you're going like, wow, he's using the fifth on even questions that don't incriminate him. Therefore, it's kind of pointless. That was the point, I believe, Kat. Although I'm not a lawyer, though I often tell young ladies that at the bar. Can you think of a big, giant story the media has broken? Nick Shirley has broken one great story. That's one more than the media.
Yeah, well, the thing about this is it really is depressing for a million reasons, but one that maybe we haven't touched on in the past few minutes is it really just shows how divided we really are unnecessarily, at least in terms of the media, because this is something that screwed all of us.
Yeah.
There is not to varying degrees, up to and including death for some people and losing family members and having them die alone and horrible things like that. Everyone to some level suffered for this, and we are now finding out what many of us have been suspecting for a while, that this was not based on the science the way that we were being told all the time that it was. And his words were being treated as gospel, as law, and his words were not just wrong, but they were lies. He knew they were wrong. That affected everyone. Everyone should be mad about that.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter. If the more that you kind of bought into it, the more that you should be mad now rather than the opposite, I would think. I just don't see why we can't. We politicized a virus, which was pretty bad. And now that we're finding out we were all screwed, all of us were made fools out of and screwed, and we had things of consequences we all suffered. And we can't all be like, hey, what the
Yeah. It's, I go back to, I've said this enough, Tyrus, but can we just, we have to replace the media with something. Maybe it's AI, but there's absolutely, how can you have any credibility when every major story, they're either on the wrong side of it or enabled the bad stuff to happen?
Greg, they're not on the wrong side, they're on their side of it. This was a coup, and they used Fauci to push the agenda. They needed Trump out of office. They tried all the other stuff to do it. And then if they come back now and say we were wrong about Fauci, that means they have to admit that the Trump administration was right. They'd also have to admit that Operation Speed or whatever it was worked, that his plans worked, his things were working, and that they were part of the biggest lie and cover up in the history of our country. So they're all in. They're thinking a little evil to get out a big evil. They are committed to him. It is religion to him. They're going to come on there and Scarborough is one of the dumbest people ever. And it's shocking because given the size of his head and the glasses he wears, you would think he would be smarter, but they are all in bed. They all profited from it. I guarantee if you go back and look at them, they weren't wearing masks at home because they knew what it was. But it was the greater good. And he had private meetings with governors and everybody in the blue states to make it look like everything the administration was doing was wrong, which was easy then to influence votes because people were like, Trump didn't handle the pandemic right. He was a bully. And look what all these people had to do. And so I remember even hearing people saying it like, well, no one survives a pandemic when they handle it the way that President Trump did. And that's what this is about. They don't give a damn about, we've said it a million times, they cracked a few eggs, a million Americans. We had the death toll and thing, but those things were not up there for us to be aware. They were up for us to vote a different way. So that's why they're going to be this way. It is, and they got a really good taste of what communism in America looks like. Government could tell American citizens what to do. They fell in line. We turned on each other, and it gave birth to what we have right now. The birth of socialism here, which is just communism.
All right.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the